You did, with the aid of some of your colleagues, help save the transplant program. I don't want to talk about that because I think you can defend that. The stuff that I think is more controversial are a couple of letters that the New York Times back in September found that you wrote to regulators. But first, let me show you what you said at a February 2011 House Ways and Means budget hearing. And you were talking about the sustainable growth rate, which is of SGR, and people have complained that we are losing doctors. Well, my husband is a doctor. My daughter is a doctor. We do health care. My income is dependent on health care. So this is important to me. You caused your own problem. My income is dependent on health care. Then you're advocating for things that people could see as helping your own income.
Look, I think you know me well enough to know that what I was trying to explain in that statement, and I disclose quite often, is the fact that this is something that I know a good deal about. And so I understand what you're saying, but the reality is I have never done anything or never advocated for anything that wasn't in the best interest of patients and patient care.
That's what's difficult about some of these issues, because some of the things that you're advocating for may have helped patients and constituents in addition to your husband. Let's focus on a couple of letters that you wrote. One was to Congressman Pete Stark, and the New York Times reported that the activities of Amgen, Kidney Partners, and DaVita are closely aligned at times. In early February 2008, for example, Ms. Berkley received a series of campaign contributions. First $1,000 from Amgen, then $2,000 from Kidney Care Partners, a trade group backed by Amgen and DaVita, $1,000 from DaVita, and then $1,000 from, this is your husband, Dr. Lerner's group, the renal physicians. The day that two of those checks were delivered, Ms. Berkley sent a letter to Representative Pete Stark, Democrat of California, who was then chairman of the House Ways and Means Subcommittee with jurisdiction over Medicare, warning him to move carefully in considering changes in compensating doctors who provided dialysis treatments, like your husband. Echoing concerns raised by the industry, the Congresswoman said she worried that patient access to care could be affected. Here's the quote. While I support initiatives to improve quality and efficiency in Medicare, I do not believe that these efficiencies should come at the cost of the patient's well-being. You wrote in this letter to Pete Stark without disclosing your husband's interests. So here's the question that the New York Times raised to you, and I'm going to raise the same question. Is it proper for you to have taken money from these players so closely in the alignment of sending the letter, particularly given your husband's involvement in the Political Action Committee? That it looks bad. I mean, does it not? You take the money, then you write the letter?
My only motivation was to ensure that the patients in the state of Nevada, my constituents, got the best possible health care. That was the only motivation that's the only thing that motivated me. And the letter to Pete Stark, I sit next to Pete Stark when we are, because we both sit on the Ways and Means Committee and the Healthcare Subcommittee. So my interests were of no surprise to Pete Stark. So that's one thing. But the second thing, and the thing to keep in mind, that all of this had to do with patient care and ensuring that the patients, especially those on dialysis, because that was the issue that we were talking about, got the best possible health care in this country.
Do you understand?
That was it.
You've been around politics for most of your adult life, all of your adult life. Here's a person, Shelley Berkley out of it, takes money from people with a direct interest who could benefit from this legislation. Your husband has set up a PAC to gets this money to you, and then you write a letter to Pete Stark and say, do this because it'll help patients, it'll help your husband's income and therefore your income.
Look, the only thing that motivated me was the concern for patient care in the state of Nevada. It's not as if we're doing all that great in the state of Nevada. Somebody needs to be an outspoken advocate. You don't deny that would have benefited your husband, do you?
It
wasn't my motivation, and I don't know. What I do know is that the people of the state of Nevada need an outspoken advocate that has their interests and knows what they're talking about.
You didn't talk to your husband before you wrote that letter about writing a letter like that?
Probably not. And I think it's important for me to explain this. I am married to a wonderful guy, as you know. I'm very proud of him. He's one of the leading kidney specialists in the country. He saves lives for a living. That's a very important thing, and I'm very proud of him. I tell everybody what he does and what he's accomplished and what he does to save people's lives. that is what my concern was. Now, there was nothing untoward, and I do talk to Larry about a whole host of things. We're married. We talk like every other married couple. But he's not the only one that I talk to.
It seems like you got around the House Ethics rules because your husband never registered as a lobbyist, which your folks...
He's not a lobbyist. He's a doctor.
He set up a PAC. He helped fund a PAC. He acted as a lobbyist. He acted as a lobbyist without registering as a lobbyist. Was he not essentially lobbying on these issues?
I reach out to doctors all over this community when there are health issues that would affect them. Larry was treated no differently than any other doctor in this state. That is absolutely for certain. And there are certain things that I voted on that were not good for Larry and are not good for doctors.